For the longest time, if you were looking to buy a performance sport compact car, that segment has been dominated by Honda, Ford, and of course Volkswagen with the Golf R. However, in recent years, Hyundai has really been upping their street cred with their performance-oriented N-line models. And as you can see, this week, I'm just north of Los Angeles, California with Hyundai to drive this very cool camouflaged Elantra. This is not just any old Elantra. This is the upcoming 2022 Elantra N, a 276 horsepower turbocharged sport compact sedan. So the big question I want to answer, has Hyundai managed to build the ultimate Elantra N that can go toe-to-toe with the best? That's what we're here to find out. So part of what makes the N a real N model is the same powertrain that we find under the Veloster N. Now remember, the Veloster N came out about 2 years ago, and this is the company's 2-liter turbocharged GDI 4-cylinder with gasoline direct injection. In this car, Hyundai says it makes 276 horsepower and 289 pound-feet of torque. Now obviously, the Golf R, the Civic Type R, and STI is going to be more powerful, but this car is supposed to be a lot less expensive. We don't know pricing just yet, but Hyundai of course will announce that sometime next year. All Elantra Ns will be front-wheel drive with a mechanical limited slip differential, the same one that we find in the Veloster N, and the standard transmission will be a 6-speed manual, or you can also opt for Hyundai's dual clutch, an 8-speed wet dual clutch automatic transmission. Now we don't know fuel economy figures just yet, but it should be pretty close to what you get in the Veloster N, which weighed in around at 2,700 pounds. Hyundai says performance of this car should be comparable, which means we would be looking at a mid 5-second range, 0 to 60. Now obviously I can't talk about the styling too much with the car completely wrapped in this camouflage, but just like the regular Elantra, you can see some of the styling details are poking out. These are the full LED headlights that you get on other Elantras. The grille obviously has a lot of covering on it, but this is the parametric grille with the cascade waterfall design. It's got an N badge here that you can see is covered up, so I imagine the N badge will be replacing the N line badge that you get on the less powerful version of this car. And really, I'm super excited to see the actual production version of this vehicle because I think the regular Elantra is one impressive looking car. Now, obviously looking at the side profile, you can't really see too much, but one thing I will point out are the wheels and tires. These are a 19-inch wheel, so it's an inch larger than what you find in the N line. They're also wrapped in 245 width tires, so 10 millimeters wider. The brakes are also larger. These are 13.5-inch rotors with it looks like a 4-piston Brembo design to the front caliper. So obviously more horsepower, better suspension. Hyundai did give this thing better brakes. Now this one here is a Korean spec model. There is no sunroof option, so I'm wondering if Hyundai is going to offer a sunroof. But moving around the rear of the vehicle, I love this spoiler that Hyundai has added. This is a really nice looking wing that they put that really is nicely integrated into the overall rear design. You can see the taillight modules have kind of that LED combination look to it. And then down here, look at these exhaust tips. These are the massive, it looks like 4-inch oval exhaust tips, which are dual. It sounds just like the Veloster N, so let me fire it up. You guys can hear how this motor sounds. So let's fire up that engine because the N line sounded okay, but how about this real N version of the car? Best sounding exhaust in the segment? I think so. Whew. So, why does your Type R not sound like that? Right? Oh my God.
Quicker than the N line.
Okay.
It still has some hang in it.
It's, yeah, maybe you should tell them that. Get rid of the rev hang. And Hyundai has really been getting a lot of praise for their exhaust systems. This thing sounds really, really good. Now, I want to show you guys the trunk capacity of this car, but there is a lot of stuff in it right now. You should be looking at the same 14 cubic feet of space. Remember, this is based off of the regular Elantra and Elantra N line. But overall, let me know in the comments below what you guys think of the upgrades that Hyundai has added. Now on the inside of this camouflaged Elantra N, obviously it's going to be changed for the US model. This is kind of like a Korean spec version of the car, but I'm seeing a lot of elements in here that remind me a lot of the Veloster N. The steering wheel essentially is similar to the Veloster N. You even have those blue colored buttons on the steering wheel. You also have the blue seat belts and some of that blue stitching kind of splashed throughout. Now the one thing I'm noticing right away when I first started, that sound is really nice. Unlike the Elantra N line, which had the smaller 8-inch screen and the non-LCD screen here. This has the full 10.25-inch display here in the instrument panel and of course in the infotainment system. This look is far better for me. This is definitely upping the quality. It makes this car look far more technologically advanced. The materials are all still pretty much the same. There's some soft touch plastic mixed in with some cheaper hard touch plastic. The shifter is slightly unique or different on the N model. The shifter ball is different, but the throws feel pretty similar to the N line. The clutch also feels slightly heavier. The engagement point's kind of right at the end of the travel again. There are several different differences here with the drive mode button here. You can cycle between an eco, normal, and a sport. There's also a little checkered flag button here that puts it into an N mode or a custom that turns on and off the automatic rev matching feature. And really, I really hope that Hyundai offers this color combination with these full leather seats with the power seat function. And this one also has memory seats with the Bose premium sound system. So I hope Hyundai considers offering all of the premium tech features. And this particular one also has ventilated seats. I was not expecting to find the cooled seat option in this car along with the heated wheel. Again, this is a Korean spec model and really it feels comfortable. It feels high tech. It also feels slightly more luxurious than the N line. Now let me show you guys the back seat really quick, because the back seat's pretty much the same. I'm noticing a few differences. Obviously, we've got the leather back here, and you also have these same blue seat belts, which is nice with the blue stitching. But I'm also seeing a couple things. There are rear seat air vents back here, which none of the other American spec Elantras offered. And this one here also has 2-level heated rear seats, although the same soft or hard touch plastic materials. So overall, the Korean spec model here has a lot of features that I hope that Hyundai brings to America. So now we are driving the ultimate Elantra. This is the Elantra N, the full-on N version of this car. And this one here is a camouflage model, as you guys saw. So obviously it's not completely ready. This is a Korean spec model. The speedometer is in kilometers. The navigation map says we're in Korea. But we've got the right engine at least. This is the 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder from the Veloster N. It's got those pops and crackles from the exhaust every time you just lift off the throttle. It makes those popping noises, which really makes this car really interesting when you're driving. I mean, I love driving the Veloster N, so putting it in the 4-door version, essentially the Elantra N, makes sense because that's something that I complained about when I drove the Veloster N. I wanted it to have a bigger back seat, more practicality. Personally, I would have rather had a hot hatch, but at least they're giving us a 4-door. So this engine, as I said earlier, makes 276 horsepower, so one more pony versus the Veloster N, and 289 pound-feet of torque. It comes with rev matching as well. Oh my God, that's the best thing, is going through a tunnel and listening to that exhaust just crackle and pop. Now, I will say right off the bat, this powertrain does not feel as quick as the last Civic Type R that I drove. But it definitely feels faster than a GTI. Wow. The chassis of this car also, when I drove the regular model, I could tell that it could easily handle the additional power. And this car definitely gets it. It also gets upgraded steering, upgraded suspension. You're definitely going to notice the firm ride in this car. Now again, it's a prototype model, a camouflage prototype, so Hyundai's going to be making some tweaks, obviously, for the final production spec. But what a cool car, because it really occupies this great middle space between something like a Civic Si and a Civic Type R. You've got more horsepower than a WRX, but it is front drive, remember? But God, Hyundai just really knows how to do an amazing exhaust in this thing. It's a really visceral experience. The steering has a lot of feedback and heft, way more than the regular N line, which is what I was looking for the full-on N version of this car. I also like the rev matching. I like the shifter. The clutch is a little heavier, but it still has kind of that same vagueness where you can easily stall this car if you're not sure where the engagement point is. But once you kind of get used to that, you shouldn't do it anymore. Visibility is also really good. The ride quality here, it seems to settle down into a more comfortable, you know, cruise, although on bumpier pavement, you're gonna notice that it's pretty rough riding.
Does it have adaptive dampers?
I'm not entirely sure if it'll have adaptive dampers. That's something, of course, that Hyundai's gonna have to figure out when they decide on what the full production spec models will have. Now this car is front drive, remember, with a limited slip differential, and it actually puts the power down really well. We were accelerating uphill there, but I didn't feel any wheels or any torque steer, which is good. There is a little bit of wheel hop when you really get on the throttle. But this is an absolute joy to drive. Now remember, you can get this car with a 6-speed manual like the one I'm driving, or an 8-speed dual clutch transmission. That's the same dual clutch that we find in the Veloster N.
Oh, God! Goodness. Whole dashboard, that thing was gonna fall apart.
And that's why that they should consider putting all-wheel drive in this car, so you can do a little bit more aggressive launches. Try that in a WRX or a Golf R and it'll probably put the power down way better, but still an absolute joy. And it didn't torque steer, just had some pretty violent wheel hop. But remember, Hyundai has stiffened up the engine mounts and everything in this car, and you really notice it. Wow. That exhaust noise is definitely the best sounding exhaust that I'm hearing in this segment. The Type R just sounds like a vacuum cleaner. The WRX just has that Subaru rumbly, burbly noise, and then a Golf R is just too quiet, at least the current one. And when I asked Honda why they wouldn't do that kind of noise, they say it's the sound of waste. But you know what? In America, we really like to hear that sound of waste because it just adds to the whole drama of this car. Now, the one thing I am noticing is the engine has a 6,500 RPM Redline. If you get close to it, it bangs off that rev limiter and it cuts all the power. So you really need to make sure that you're short shifting it slightly. I also noticed above 6, there isn't really much power. You start to feel it taper off, which is a little sad. Like the Type R will keep pulling all the way to its 7,000 Redline. This engine doesn't really want to rev quite as much. So I hope Hyundai will kind of work on the tuning there to make it a little bit more enthusiastic. But overall, I'm super excited for this car. It goes on sale next year sometime, and it's going to be an interesting middle choice between something like a Civic Si and a Type R. So it's not every day that you get the opportunity to drive two Elantra Ns that are camouflaged. I've now switched over to the dual clutch variant. This is the 8-speed wet dual clutch. I was just in the 6-speed manual model. Okay. I wasn't expecting the farting noises to come out. This is way more noticeable than the regular version of this car. That sounds really damn good. Really damn good. Wow. Hold on a second. I gotta try this one more time. What a noise! Oh my God, that is lovely. Wow. You have to love Hyundai for just having the balls to give us an exhaust that makes those kind of burbly, crackly, farty noises. Oh, very impressive. Now, in terms of acceleration, I can't exactly tell right now whether the dual clutch or the manual is the quicker option. I mean, I'm on this very short little drive out here in Malibu, California on these curvy roads. Ooh, God. Hyundai is really killing it now. Their N division really seems to know what they're doing here. And you can't help but be super impressed. Now, the one thing about the dual clutch is it gives you this feature called NGS. There's a button here. When you push that, it stands for N Grin Shift, which gives you, it's kind of like a Porsche Sport. It's like the Porsche with the Sport Response button. It gives you 20 seconds of an overboost feature where everything kind of goes into high intensity. The transmission goes into high attack mode, the engine gets more responsive, and just look at the handling of this car. The steering is so responsive and direct. The tires have so much grip. The chassis, there's very little to no body lean. It is just amazing what Hyundai is able to do here. You know, just a few years ago, you wouldn't even think of them as an enthusiast brand, and now look what they're doing. This is just absolutely incredible. Oh my God, that is amazing. I think I might actually like this more than the manual, although I'm noticing this car, this Korean spec model that's not finished, doesn't have launch control. I was trying to engage it the way I was doing it in the Sonata N line. It just isn't there. But wow, what a package. I mean, this definitely occupies a really nice middle ground between a lot of the competitors out there. I'm noticing that when you have it in the grin shift, it doesn't make as many burbles and cracks. Instead, it shifts quicker, it's snappier to shift. Wow, look at this thing. It just grips the road so well. This has the same kind of immediacy as the Veloster N. I mean, the ride is firm when you're in this mode right now, but wow, does this car just handle so well. Oh, holy moly. I am so impressed. I cannot wait for this production version to come out, because this is going to attract a whole new level of enthusiasts to Hyundai showrooms. Because I mean, the Veloster N is great, but I love the fact that this has a back seat that's usable. It's one of the largest in the segment. I love the infotainment system that this car has with the two 10-inch displays here. This particular one here doesn't have the cooled seats. The manual one did. And I heard that a sunroof is available on the DCT. This one doesn't have it, but I was told that the sunroof is available with the dual clutch. Look, it's so responsive when I put my foot down. Oh, wow. I'm impressed. Color me impressed. This is one amazing driving car, and it really shows that Hyundai hired the right people to be in charge of their N division. Oh. This easily feels like a low 5-second or mid 5-second car, easily. And for front drive, it puts the power down so well. How do they do that? I mean, I'm gonna have to wait until I can test this back in my home area, but this is just unbelievable how responsive this car is, how planted it is, how visceral, how fun it is. I was expecting the dual clutch to be kind of watered down, and it's not. It just kind of makes the car even better. The manual was good, but it feels quicker, it feels responsive, it sounds better with the dual clutch. I was not expecting this. I was expecting to like the manual more, but this is an amazing, amazing transmission. Honda should consider offering a dual clutch in the next gen Type R. They should. So just like the Veloster N, the Elantra N has all the qualities that I really loved about that funky 3-door hot hatch, and it wraps it around in a sleek 4-door body that is far more practical. This is exactly what people in America wanted. However, I kind of wish they would offer it as a hatch. But after my brief drive in this thing, remember, this is an early prototype. Hyundai is still kind of fine-tuning a few things. I love the exhaust noise. I love the shifter. I love the way the engine feels and sounds. It accelerates very quickly. And I actually didn't mind the interior of this one. It had some nice upgrades, which I'm not entirely sure it's going to come to the US spec model. So I hope Hyundai will throw in some of that tech features that I've seen in this car. And the ride quality is on the firmer side, although remember, if you adjust the ride quality, the adaptive dampers in this car should help to smooth out the ride a little bit. But really, Hyundai has succeeded in giving us an Elantra that really does compete with the sport compact segment, because we've never, ever had an Elantra that could go head to head with something like a Type R, like an STI, a WRX, or a Volkswagen Golf R or a GTI. And this car is going to be an interesting option when it does go on sale sometime next year. Now, obviously, Hyundai doesn't have pricing yet for this model, but if they can get the pricing for the Elantra N to be right under $30,000 for a base version, and then maybe around $32,000 for a loaded model, this is going to be kind of almost like a Civic Type R sedan that we never got here in America, although it has slightly less power. I'd argue that it has just as much fun, especially when you listen to that wonderful exhaust noise. But with all that said, I hope you guys have enjoyed this quick overview on this very cool camouflaged Elantra N. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews. Like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.